I prioritize family. Now I understand. I look at some of the most important people to me in my family, and I see like they might not be here in a couple of years, and I want to make sure that they understand how much I care about them.
Hello and welcome to the Communicode podcast, episode 2.
Today we're going to be interviewing a good friend of mine, Denis. He owns an agency and is very successful in the business world, and we thought it'd be brilliant to share some entrepreneurship and business advice with you from him. So if you enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you next month for episode 3. So Denis, thanks very much for coming on, and welcome to the Communicode podcast. Just tell us a little bit about yourself before we start with the questions we're going to ask you.
No, thank you guys. Love to be here. A little bit about myself. So yeah, right now I run 2 companies, one in the tech space, another one a marketing agency, and I've been doing this for a couple of years now.
That's good stuff. So we just wanted to ask for the first part a few questions about your past and like what's made you who you are today. And then part 2 is more based on the specifics of what you do in your business. So the first question we have for you is, could you tell us a story from your childhood that made you who you are today?
There are a couple for sure. Probably the one that stuck out the most. When I was super young, and like all chaps, we always have a group of friends, right? And all we want is to fit in. This was before I had a good understanding about reality or what my reality looks like. And I remember out of nowhere, my dearest friends, my closest friends, out of nothing, started running away. I thought it was a joke. I was like, oh, just joking around. But then the thing continued on and on, day after day, week after week. And all of a sudden, without knowing why, all of a sudden all my friends were gone. And I was like, 12, 13. So it was very interesting. And it taught me a very good and important lesson, which is learn how to live with myself. There was a good period of time where I had to learn how to be comfortable being alone or being in less surrounded with less people than I was used to. And the most interesting thing is when I was used to always have logic to back up all the actions and things that happen around me, all of a sudden there was no logic. It took only like 5-6 years, and then even then I didn't care. But I would say that was one of the most striking and important experiences that today I'm super grateful, because that made me made a good part of what I am today.
Yeah, that's great because like obviously I find with myself, obviously like we've been speaking for months now. I think I joined Alpha Trend in February, and since then I've had to make like sacrifices, and I feel like a completely different person to who I was last year. I feel like I've changed so much. And I now know that I think it's kind of obvious in some situations that there's a lot of people that used to kind of like me or didn't really have an opinion on me that like would dislike me now just because of the things that I'm doing. And I've always worried myself about perception and how I'm seen upon like different family and different friends. And if I'm like pleasing them, I've always kind of been a bit of a people pleaser. And now I'm just so, like you said, I've learned to be on my own a lot, and I've learned to really kind of figure out who I am as a person. And if, somebody doesn't like that, then they're not meant to be in my life. And so I definitely resonate with what you said. I'm sure you've probably got different experiences.
It's so interesting how to be successful in life and to be sort of, and if you're running a business or whatever, it's so important. But the whole thing is like the strategy and business and everything. There's a factor of it, but it's all to do with yourself, and it's all your mindset and it's a personal journey that, like, I guess it's so good how you've had that experience, Dennis, because without that, you definitely wouldn't be where you are today, because it's so like the journey's so personal
Yeah.
when I'm building something.
It
And when,
builds you independence as well.
when you're coming into contact with so many different people, you've got to open yourself up and be vulnerable to in order to for them to trust you and trust yourself, whether it be in business, whether it be in just relationships or anything, which I think is so important.
Yeah, totally. And
100%.
yeah, so
Yeah. I feel that especially while we are growing up and still forming our own thoughts around, or while we're still developing our definitions of what this means, what that means, those emotional experiences definitely tend to mold us. And the way we decide to handle them will 100% have huge effects on the long term and the future of how we develop, not only socially, but also in other areas of our life. And in one side, it's sometimes when we look at bad experiences, we always feel like, or a lot of people tend to just look at the negative side of it. But as we go along, now I look back and it's interesting. I'm actually grateful because every single person that disappeared back then, it's still not around today. And today, they wish they were.
yeah,
I guess it's the first sort of step of awareness when you first when you become aware that you're having these bad experiences, but you can bring good from it. That's sort of the first sort of hurdle of self-improvement and to improve your mindset, improve yourself.
Yeah, that's like the key to personal growth, really. I think the whole point of personal growth is realizing that you're in a position you don't necessarily want to be in, and whether it's forced upon you or not, with this situation, like your friends, running away from you and just like not associating with you. If whether you choose that or not, you're going to grow from it at some point. So if you can find the positives as opposed to the negatives, and not just live in that like depressed type mindset, like, oh, all my friends are leaving me, and look at the positives, like, oh, all my friends are leaving me. It kind of shows like, I mean, that might not necessarily make sense, but it's more like there's a lot of good that can come out of it, like you just said, because that gives you, on the plus side, you get a lot more independence. You can figure out who you are in yourself a lot more, and you can really learn to live with yourself, like you said. So, yeah, I think I really resonate with that. And we were going to ask you as well, like, what are the main things that you've learned about yourself in your life so far, and what kind of person are you?
I learned that no matter how far away or no matter how big or small I think that I can endure things or where's my limit, I can always push harder. And I can always become better over and over again. Whenever you feel like, okay, this is my milestone, this is what I want to get to, I always learned that no matter how far away I push myself, the only thing between me and getting there or exceeding that is my own willingness to commit to it. So that is one. Second is pain is the source of growth for everything. The more pain you go through, and I don't want to sound negative at all, but everything boils down to pain. Desire is a form of pain, and growing is a form of pain. Even when we are little kids and we are growing, our bones and our muscles hurt. So it's just a natural progression in our own whether it's professional or personal development. And this taught me that when we are comfortable, when we are not in pain or in no any level of pain, we're not experiencing any type of pain, it means that we are not growing. We are just stagnant. So I learned that I need to continuously push myself out of the comfort zone. Never and ever, under no circumstances, accept average or accept okay or accept the comfort of the current position. And that's not only in business. I mean this on a personal level as well, or personal relationships. And as far as what it speaks to about the type of person or kind of person that I am, I learned that I will always be a giver. And now I don't expect anything. But I will, no matter how hard I try, I always naturally tend to give first. And then in the beginning it was like, why isn't no one giving back? But now it's like when you remove the expectations and you just give because it's natural to you for the sake of it, you understand sometimes you'll get back, but from different parts of the universe. It doesn't mean that if you give to one person, that person will give you back. But if you give enough to society, to the market, to relationships, inevitably nature will find its balance and just give it back to you.
Yeah. Giving in many ways attracts abundance in your life. And what I've found after trying to learn and learn from other people is that most of the time when you give and you feel gratitude, you feel like so much happier in your life than when you go through the periods that are inevitable, but when you're like constantly desiring things like like if you're never satisfied, which will lead on to our next question, but if you're never satisfied, I feel like you can never really take a second to just enjoy life and be present and enjoy the moments. And I feel like giving kind of like interlocks with those feelings. And I think it's so important. Like I'm sure you have the same opinion.
Yeah, it is interesting. It is an interesting thing to think about, like, because people who, I guess, in life just moves so fast that people just end up getting satisfied and complacent, and they don't
Just like
they don't,
comfortability.
yeah, and they just don't like look at themselves and feel like, what like, as a person, who's like,
Yeah.
what's happening?
So true.
So many people don't self-reflect because like life just flies by.
Definitely.
And as you get older, what my experience, obviously we're still very young,
Yeah.
but as I've got older, from when I was growing up, I feel that the more time goes on, the faster time's going. And I feel that everything, it just does escape you, and you just sort of, the weeks and months fly by, and you never, some people just don't look at themselves and feel like, what sort of person am I? What do I actually want? And what am I like sort of giving and not,
Yeah.
you do have to take that time for yourself, I do feel like. And obviously investing in yourself is the most important thing you can do.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that where I see, because I get exposed to a lot of people due to the nature of my professional life. And I think that it's very interesting to see how many people are afraid of investing into themselves generally, but are not, but they are not afraid of investing in trivial or just random objects that they feel that will make them happy for a couple seconds. A phone will not buy you any type of development or growth in your life unless you have a Nokia from 2003 and you need to upgrade. But other than that, is the more you invest in yourself, both earning capabilities, both social capabilities, all those different skills, they will stack up as you go and will grow and build a compounding effect. And most of the times, the thing is, we tend not to be patient enough. We want to see results yesterday, but it doesn't work like that. And I feel on one side, it's scary when I have conversations with 18-year-olds. They're saying they are behind. They should already be at X. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like at 18, the expectations that I through the roof, they are unimaginable. And then on the flip side, you also have conversations with people that should already have should is not my favorite word, but according to the status quo, it would be natural to see them on a more stable position or with more stable thoughts, more stable goals, and they don't. And I feel that there was a huge evolution between generations, and generations, I'm not talking about like 20, 30 years apart. I'm talking like between like 10 years apart. It's just mind blowing to me. And just going back to the topic, if there's one thing that I don't think anyone should think twice is investing themselves, any area, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's definitely something I need to get better with as well, because I'll sort of dither about spending, say, £50 something that would help me, whereas I'd go and spend £20 a meal out there, I'll go and spend something here, go and buy something that I don't really need, and it all adds up. And if I just sort of had that more self-discipline and sort of just actually invested in myself, I think I'll probably do better from it.
Yeah, I think everything, for me personally, I think everything's good in moderation. I don't know how healthy it is to strip yourself completely of any like sort of reward, because in a way it's kind of, that's a motivation contributor. But at the same time, if you're aware and you're aware enough to realize that the more kind of covetous you are, that ironically the less happy you'll get because you're constantly desiring more. I think that's a really good thing to reflect on. And what I find now and what I'm trying to work on, like you said with the giving, Dennis, is that if I just spend a day with my mum, I don't really see my mum that much because she lives in another part of England. But I feel like growing up, your expectation from your mum, certainly for me, it might be very selfish, but like your mum provides for you. And so a lot of it's like you're expecting from her. But now I'm getting to the age, like I turned 21 3 days ago. I want to go up and see my mum and I want to be able to like, you know, take her out for a lovely dinner. And I'm almost at that age now where I just want to kind of, I mean, I say I want to repay her for all of the years that she's brought me up, but she's like, you never have to repay me for that. But I just mean, I want to be able to give. And that brings me so much happiness now, as opposed to expecting things. And like, if my mum gave me dinner, I wouldn't be happy in comparison to going out for a lovely meal and just being able to pay for it. That brings me so much more joy and happiness. And I think when you can begin to realize that and you get to a certain age where you're mentally mature enough to realize that, it's just a beautiful thing because your life really attracts abundance as soon as you start giving. So I totally resonate with what you said, Dennis. And what, yeah, I mean, do you want, you can ask.
I was gonna say as well, when you're sort of, for example, when you're spending money on your mum or someone you care about, when you're giving in that aspect, it does do more for yourself as well.
Definitely.
And I think that obviously something good will become of it as well, but I guess it is sort of also beneficial to you as well.
I mean, totally. That's like what we're saying.
So when you're giving to people you care about,
yes,
you know,
it's amazing.
It's a great thing when you're able to do that, and lucky enough to do that.
Yeah, a slightly
Especially,
sorry, you know.
no, I was just to say that especially when you detach from the outcome, because this is an interesting thing with personal relations like with family. It's easier to give without expecting, because that's how we received it in the first place, because we received first because we are not the first ones giving. So it's easy to understand and to associate and to replicate that behavior, so that will just create goodwill and good energy between everyone. Now, in the other areas of life, when we step outside the comfort zone, because family tends to be quite comfortable, it's almost like a safe spot for a lot of people. When you step outside that world and you see yourself surrounded by strangers, now there's a different paradigm between how much should I give? To what extent should I give? When will I be in a position where I might be giving, but that might hurt myself, that might be hurting myself in the long term? So then there are a lot more questions that might lay around or that go through your mind. And going back to that initial question, I had some interesting experiences when, again, logic doesn't meet expectations. But the biggest lesson for me was detaching 100% from the outcome, no matter what. If you give without thinking, you'll also get without even expecting.
So Dennis, like, do you think your life has sort of exceeded or disappointed you in your expectations so far?
It didn't disappoint me at all. Exceeded. It's an interesting word. This, I don't know how this sounds, but in one way, I always knew that I was meant for more. Like I always knew that I wanted to do crazy things and things that most people would not say that are normal. So it's on one end, it's like it met my expectations, and I still feel I have so much more to go. But um, I would say more on the exceeding, just because when you see your plans coming to fruition, that's when that rush, that dopamine hits. And if you're like, oh, I got to that point. But then all of a sudden, that's just a moment, split second, gone. And then you have a new thing. And then you have a new milestone, a new step, a new thing that you want to cross, a new line that you want to cross. So I would say that it met my expectations.
What are the things that you in your life, obviously, like we do talk a fair bit, and so I see as well on like Instagram and things like you're always at the gym, like we're so disciplined with that, you're disciplined with work. What are the things that you like have to prioritize in your life, you like need to stay well and to be able to function healthily?
Good question. So feeling good about myself, like, so fitness, it's something and that I'm doubling down this year, and feeling good about myself, feeling good about how I look, feeling good about what I see in the mirror. That's important to me. Um, then growth. I prioritize growth in every single area of life and every single thing that I touch. If I feel that I haven't grown significantly in 30, 60, 90 days, I know something's wrong. I don't get right away into desperation mode. I just realize, hey, something's wrong, something's off, something needs improvement. So I seek uh, experiencing growth in everything that I do, and that's why I like to track it. So same thing in the gym. Just going back to that, if I feel that I'm not seeing better results, then I need to act on it, and that's why I actually just got a personal trainer to help me out, because I mean, I was like, I should be getting better results by now. And I prioritize family. I think they were never as important to me as they are right now. Not because anything changed on their end, but on my end. Because now I understand. I look at some of the most important people to me in my family, and I see like they might not be here in a couple of years, and I want to make sure that they understand how much I care about them, especially my grandma. She's like crazy woman. I love her to bits, and she's 90. She's turning 90 years old, and she still looks like 50. She still runs, so it's quite mind blowing. But and of course, last but not least, probably the most important part, my fiance. She's the world to me.
For myself, like what you were saying with grandparents, um, most of my grandparents are still alive. It's just cherishing them like moments with those people and the people that are closest to you. Especially like I say, like my mum and my dad and my close friends that I call family as well. I think that's what really brings the real fruit of life. Um, Being able to just spend that time, because as deep as this might sound, it's pretty cliche as well, but you never really know how fragile life is until something really significant happens. Um, and so it's just incredibly important, like you say, to just be able to really make the most of the minutes that you have with people. And in doing so, that brings you, that well, certainly brings me, and I'm sure most people, a real sense of joy and happiness. So, yeah, I think it's a really beautiful thing that you said that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so you said you track sort of every part of your life. So do you like sort of journal? Do you like how do you keep tabs on how like sort of who you are day to day?
There's one thing that I always keep handy, which is my my notepad. It's a normal, like cheapest one you can find, and a pen, a uni ball pen. I always take them around, like even if I'm not using them, if I'm going to bed, like I take them with me, even if I'm not writing anything. Just because there's this interesting thing that happens that whenever the way you think things, the moment you see them, you visualize them or you write them down, all of a sudden the shape, the form, the thought process definitely looks different, and you analyze, okay, is it valid or not? So I tend to validate my thoughts by writing them down, and that also means tracking things, not like on a on a maniac level where I have spreadsheets laying around with everything that I do. No, I think just to look at the core things, right? The things that easily I can look at them at a glance and I see, okay, do I see evolution or do I see myself going backwards or just staying in the same place?
Interesting. Yeah, because you journal, like, would you say you journal? What sort
Yeah.
of things do you do?
So I did for a while, and I sort of experimented with a lot of different things, sort of grateful, what's the gratitude
Oh
journaling
yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that, which obviously is great because when I mean, I don't know if you probably know a bit about this, Dennis, but when I was doing gratitude journaling, I always sort of did it in the morning. So when you like after a while, you build the habit of writing down a few things you're grateful for in the morning, and then when you then wake up, you have a habit of just feeling grateful for
Interesting.
waking up.
I've never done that, like personally, but like everybody does things differently. So
Mm.
like I need to definitely work on gratitude. But what I do similarly to you, Dennis, is like with me, I have a checklist every single day where I write the exact same stuff, with the same notepad, same pen, and it's just a tiny little like A5 one, and I just write like a little checklist of things that I need to do in the day. Have I been to the gym? Have I like taken my supplements? How much money did I make? How like my finances looking? How much sleep did I get? Like etc. So like all of these things, I think it's really good to track that if you're on like a particular journey or you're trying to reach a particular goal from whether it be like your New Year's resolution to the next or just a month or like you say like 30, 60, 90 days, whatever it is, like if you don't see progress um then you get comfortable, right? And then like I think comfortability is really not like dangerous, but it definitely opposes things like self-improvement and wanting to become better and like personal growth. So I think if you can track things and like certainly for myself, like keep a log, it makes me really accountable for the things I do as well. And so I can definitely relate with that and what you say. It's definitely been important to me. Uh,
And one thing that I would just add is, just to clarify, I don't track outcomes as much as I track activities, like inputs, because um, all outcomes are a byproduct of all your inputs, right? And inputs time leverage will ultimately be equal to the throughput that you get. So it's the same thing as saying, hey, I want to, for example, let's say I want to lose 3 pounds or 3 kilos the next month or so. That's not what I would track. For me, what I track is like, hey, am I hitting the gym 3, 4 times per week? Yes. Am I doing it, for example, am I doing the whole workout consistently? Yes. Am I drinking water? Yes. Because all those things, when summed up, it's inevitable. If I do the right inputs, I will get the outputs by by
oh,
default.
Yeah.
interesting.
That's really
Yeah, I've never thought about
because I think if you, for example, you say I'm going to lose 3 kilos this week or this month, or whatever, they're just sort of like, I guess it's sort of, you are like manifesting it, but it's also just sort of like I wish I could do that. And you aren't sort of breaking it down and achieving those little goals and in order to reach the whole sort of thing, which is really interesting.
That's like an action-based goal, isn't it? Like what you say with going to the gym. Like it's almost like I can say, oh, I want to make X amount of money next month, but I don't have a system in place that's going to allow me to do it. So how can I expect to do it if I'm not going to take the right actions. So that's interesting. You might, you know what? Next time we chat, Dennis, I'm going to have a whole different checklist. All of my stuff's going to be like, not going to be any of this. But that's very, very important. I've never really heard that before. So I've really learned something there. So thank you. Well, also a bit of a quite a broad question, but hopefully it will gain you a good answer. Is when are you happiest in life? When do you feel as though you're at your happiest?
When I win. And winning means when all inputs equated in the expected output. And this is not only for business, especially not for business or only for business. There's this thing where it's very easily to believe that most things are binary, yes, no. But they're really just a continuum of things that you do. Like I heard this thing from probably anyone in the marketing space is well aware of Rhomays. So, and he said something that really stuck with me, which is like the point is not, for example, in marriage, the point is not to win marriage. The point is to stay in marriage. And that was super powerful when I heard that the first time, because I thought like, exactly. I'm winning in my relationship when I make my fiance happy. When I see the smile, that's winning for me. I'm winning not when I get the Stripe notification, but when I see the team showing the happiest smile on their face, we just got another client happy. Or when the team are super proud about the results that we've got. Or when I see my family or my dad that I had a very interesting relationship with along these years, having a conversation and seeing on his eyes that he's proud. So when I'm winning is when I'm the happiest, and I know that these are moments. So it's almost like a drug without that is what keeps me fired up to continuously work towards winning.
Such a great answer.
Really good answer.
Really good answer.
Very good answer. I like that a lot.
So in our generation, I feel that one of the most spoken, well, I don't know if it's really most spoken about, but one of the main hot topics is social media. And we feel a lot of our generation are very, sort of, it does have a negative impact on them. So how would you feel that your own relationship with your phone and technology, social media, that sort of thing, how do you feel that really has an impact on you?
I'm smiling because it's a hate-love relationship. Without social media, one of my probably both of them wouldn't even exist. But to the same extent, I'm not the type of person that really enjoys to share too much, or social media itself. It's very interesting. I use it only for marketing and sales purposes for myself. And social media can definitely take a toll on you if you don't know how to interpret it. Especially, you have each platform for different things. Instagram is just the highlights of your life, and a lot of people get hooked up to it when they see like, oh, that person that I'm following, it's only highlights. They are having a blast of a life, but then if you actually get to know that person behind the scenes, it's actually not that pretty. And no one has just like a fully stacked life just with happy moments, with accomplishments. So social media can be deceiving in so many ways, can be very dangerous, but at the same time, it's like, it's not worth fighting a fight that you know is not there to be won. It's just part of our generation. It will continue to evolve. And I feel that the best thing we can do is to really understand what we want out of that tool, because it's just a tool. And that's how I look at it. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, I know that probably most people, younger people don't even use Facebook, but whether it's X or Twitter, whether it's TikTok, and if you want to do anything in business that in business, meaning that you will attract clients and will have you need attention. And the easiest and quickest way to get attention is on social media. So you can build a persona that doesn't exist about yourself, which is very interesting. You can just out of a sudden look like a millionaire or just like homeless. And that will trigger different effects on an audience that you can build and create. And you guys with the podcast, like you will create, it's also a form of social media, right? It's a different one, but it still is. So my thoughts are, it's a very complex topic and we just need to adapt. I like it. It brings me business. So business, professional life, love it. Personal life, don't even care.
Really answered, really good because for myself, personally, I've grown up in the generation where I was talking to somebody the other day and they said something and it really stuck with me. It was like your Instagram profile now is like the equivalent of a business card maybe 20 years ago. And it's like if you look at somebody's Instagram, you can see this persona and you can really gauge what a person's like. But at the same time, in real life, they could be a completely different person. You know, like the power of perception is incredibly, incredibly powerful across social medias. And now that, I mean, it's so interesting you say social media is great as a tool because I say that like all the time now. I use social media as a tool to promote different things about not only my agency, but also the podcast and the community that we're trying to develop. Like, if you can use it and really harness it as a tool, and like you say, with the attention factor, I think it's brilliant. But I think comparatively, on the other hand, if you're spending hours, you know, just like looking through videos and stuff that just isn't important for you whatsoever, and you're just wasting time that you could be spending on something else, I think that's where it has its real downsides. And we always have conversations, you know, Jacob and I, about it because we realize how there's two like polar opposite ends of the scale. You know, there's like a great way to be able to harness it as a tool, and there's a really bad way where you can become extremely addicted to it. Like I'm so guilty myself still. I check my phone like honestly probably 100 times a day to see who's messaged me. And I think that definitely is a negative thing, but I'm grateful that I'm self-aware enough to be able to work on it, to be honest with you. But you're a lot, I mean, you're a lot better than me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's points where you're better and you work with yourself and your relationship with social media. And I feel like when you're like more tired, I feel like when I'm more tired, I end up finding it easier to consume, just sit there and start consuming content and stuff than just not adding any value to your life at all. And I feel like it's like the discipline and the habits that will get you out of it. But it's, you know, it's just something you've got to be fully aware of before you even attempt to try and improve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are aware. That's the real problem with it. People are aware they do this and aware they spend hours and hours a day on their phones, but they just have no intention in getting better. Which I think is quite damaging to our generation, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would even say that the moment, the first time I got an assistant to manage my social, not manage like the post, but actually manage the messages, my relationship with social media completely changed. First of all, I turned off all notifications. I don't even want to see the conversations that like are meant to convert. So I don't really want to look into them and get all the notifications all day long. So that was super interesting because when that happened to me, or the first time I hired someone to manage that, I completely disconnected from the social media from a consumer standpoint. And now I just look at for much 2 or 3 things: 1, business; 2, competitive analysis; and 3, human psychology. Because you can definitely see like how new trends affect how people react to things, and by understanding how humans or most people react to different type of creatives, different type of hooks, different types of content, you have options, and you learn how to create more and better content that will trigger different emotions on with different users.
A couple of questions that are more specific to you, Dennis. And I want to ask this quick question in particular because both Jacob and I are like massive into music and stuff. Like, I think probably the thing that brings me most joy is just sitting and playing my guitar, playing my piano, and like learning new like guitar solos and things. And so a big question that I not even just for the podcast, but in general, is what inspired the sudden change in your career and talk a little bit about it because obviously we've had a conversation in the past that you were like touring Europe as a musician, and now you're like this entrepreneur and like this agency owner who's like taking a complete different road in life. So tell us a bit about it.
Absolutely. I mean, I dedicated pretty much like half of my life to music since I was 12, and um, it's interesting as you grow as a musician or in your music career and you start playing better and bigger gigs, getting exposed to labels, even though they are not as important as they were, but with tour managers and all that thing, and you want to get into circuit, you start to get some no's as well. Like for example, I remember the most successful project, Ari, the one that we toured Europe and we did some crazy good things. I remember the first album came out and we thought like, hey, we have 2 or 3 songs that potentially we could get into alternative radio stations. That would be cool. And then you start saying, oh yeah, it's great, but it's too heavy. And others would say it's great, but it's too soft, or not mainstream enough. I was like, huh, okay. Then we tried to release a new single. Then it was like, this single is perfect, but because it's in English, we were based in Portugal. No Portuguese radio station would support us because they said like, since you're English, you're competing with all English artists, and they have a limited time on our radio station. So we got like featured in on US, UK, all over the place, online and even physical stations, but nothing that interesting in our own country. So the more we start growing, I was always in charge of like, I never signed up for it, but I kind of just fell on my lap of like, hey, putting the gigs together, talking with tour managers, trying to arrange the gigs, negotiate them. And I really enjoyed the process, really. And the higher the level, the more I understood it's not about music. It's entertainment, it's about money, it's a business. And we had people say, hey, can you bring 1,000 people to this venue where was it? In London? It's like, I don't believe we can bring 1,000 people in London. I mean, if we got everyone in the UK, probably we can, but it's still like, yeah, so it's a no. And it was like, huh. So it doesn't matter if we're good, if we're bad, if you like it, if you don't like. No, I love it. But if you can't bring 1,000 people, like, forget it. That started like triggering different emotions. As a producer as well, I was like, yes, I work with artists all the way from like super heavy music all the way to like mainstream pop and even rap and hip hop. And you have a choice. You have a choice like, hey, do I want to make music as a musician, like because I enjoy my creation, because I like putting the melodies together. I like to get the gang all like blasting through these songs, or am I writing music for the end purpose of getting it into a station, getting to these venues, getting to these places, right? So that's a decision. And then that was the moment when I started to understand that, do I want to do music because I love music, because I did, or do I want to be a successful musician or artist? Because if I wanted the latter, then I needed to adapt and do things that I didn't necessarily enjoy. So that's why I decided that no, even though it's almost like swimming against the tide, I still want to do what I like to do. And all the bandmates were on the same page with that. So eventually we got there, and we got to EU a couple of times. We spent some to UK we toured twice, which was very interesting. Loved it to bits. Best experiences were there for sure. And then COVID hit. COVID was a pivotal moment for us, not just because of COVID, but most importantly, we just came out of our second tour, and we had this agent from Brazil, from like he's representing a huge artist. Probably you've heard a couple of his songs, and he was like, "Hey, I want you guys doing a South America tour." We were bad. It's amazing. We sent the money for a couple of things. The arrangement started. We had supposedly a 2.5 month long tour with no end. It could continue for at least 1 or 2 more months. This was right before COVID, around like December. And I put together the whole team, the like stage manager, the roadies, lights, everything. And out of nothing, this thing called COVID hit, and we had to cancel it. And I was like, I think that was like, that was heavy on all of us, because the reason why I was already in business doing door-to-door sales, not a small thing, but I was doing it to support my music career. And at that point, since we couldn't do anything else, I was like, shoot, I will just now dedicate to this so I can make more money, so I can invest more into music. But then I started to enjoy the creative process of building a business as well, because it was very similar as putting together a song, but just like with more pieces. It's still creative, it's still challenging. So I'm not blaming COVID. It was just like, I think that was just like the last job where we were like, do we really want to restart all this thing again, like 2 years later? We had plenty of invitations to festivals and all of that, and we decided to, let's keep it as it was. And we had more responsibilities. The drummer became a dad in between. I mean, if you lock down COVID, if you have nothing to do, probably go and make some babies, right? But so yeah. And today I still have most of my gear, and it's just memorabilia, really.
Wow, great story. I mean, it must have been really like, I don't know how I would have felt after obviously COVID and just everything being cancelled. It must have been really, really difficult. But in the end, like, it's quite interesting because you think, well, I'm sure that if that hadn't have happened, you probably wouldn't be where you are today in terms of the agency and what you're doing, obviously with Nedzo, which we can get onto with their artificial intelligence and things. Like it's like the way that stuff sometimes doesn't work out, another door will open, and then you'll be in like a completely different position to what you could have been in. But yeah, I mean, it's still a really tough one to take. Must be really difficult. Obviously, we know each other like fairly well with the whole business venture of Alpha Trend and Neto AI. A question that we wanted to ask was, do you think what's the point that you ever feel satisfied? And do you have an end goal with your business ventures? Because I know that very recently you started another partnered business, and like, where's your end goal? Like, do you feel satisfied with where you are now, or do you think, obviously, with when you said with the improvement of the 30 to 60 days and being ambitious, like, where's that going to take you? Where do you feel like the point of satisfaction is for you?
It's an interesting question. I know they can be polarizing, depending on your personal point of view on it. I don't or I don't function towards satisfaction, nor even happiness. I experience happy moments, and I enjoy them as everyone. But my end goal is not to be happy or to or to feel satisfied. Because I feel the moment I can look back and be grateful, and I am grateful for everything I have, for the amount of luck that I have, and for everything around me and everything that I accomplished. But I feel that satisfaction comes with a grain of salt, because it will, in one way or another, create comfort. It's like being comfortable, being satisfied about the current situation. And if you are the type of person that's your goal, that's what you're working towards, nothing wrong with it. I'm not here saying that that's the wrong way to optimize your life towards. What I'm saying is, for me personally, I can't. I'm that type of person. If I go on vacations, I don't go on vacations, first of all. But if I take 2, 3 days off, I can't 100% clear my mind and just be there, just like looking at the sun, the beach, and see time fly by. I get nervous when that happens. I I need to see things happening. I like the fact that life doesn't stop. The world doesn't pause for 1 second, and I want to experience the most of every single second I have on this planet. So instead of satisfaction, I work towards making an impact. I have moments of satisfaction when I realize that I made an impact on other people's lives, on the market, on an audience, on people around me. So no, I don't feel I will ever feel satisfied for a long period of time.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. Never being satisfied. I think it's a good thing. And we thought for the people watching, it would be good to while we have you on to ask a question that I'm sure you would be able to help people with. And so, can you give one piece of advice that you would tell young entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, such as myself and Jacob and so many other people out there wanting to start entering the business world?
Stop looking for answers outside. You most likely already have all the answers to your questions. Take a moment, talk to yourself, even if in silence. No one knows you better than yourself. So trust your gut and focus on one thing at a time for so long that it's unreasonable for you not to see what you're expecting to see at the end of it.
Dennis, do you think money buys happiness?
Yes. Money will not be the thing that will buy you happiness per se. You can go to the grocery store and, hey, I want a piece of happiness. No, but it will mitigate pain, which less pain most will argue that equals more happiness, right? So it will help you enjoy more moments, will help you unlock doors. Now I think there are levels to it, and I feel that money is something relative to everyone. Like, to what extent or how much money do you need to buy happiness? Because it gets to a certain point where you are only upgrading from economy to business class, from a Volkswagen to a BMW or to another things. You are not buying anything new. That is not happiness. I'm not talking about like the objects. I'm talking about you need money to buy time, because that's what it is. If you don't have money, you will pay it either way with time. If you have time, you don't need to pay it with money. But what I came to learn is that most people, as they go, they will start cherishing and um, valuing time more and more and more and more. And today, like, I would happily pay anyone, like someone, do things that I know that someone else can do, while I'll focus my time, my fiance, for example. That means that it will buy that time, that extra time will buy me some sort of happiness, and will 100% make other people happy around me. And if I didn't have that money to do that, I would probably be 24/7 on my office working non-stop. So I don't think it's the things that it buys you that it will buy you happiness, but you need money to buy time. So on my eyes, yes, in one shape, form, size, or another, it will buy you happiness regardless.
Right. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. That's all of our questions. I'm so grateful for you coming on. We'll give you a bit of time, like just um, promote your things, and we want to hear about the businesses. So you've got a bit of time now to just yeah, say all those things, man.
Absolutely. AlphaTwin.io. We help service-based businesses solve client acquisition. If you need help with that, our socials are all the same, AlphaTwin.io or our website. And my new baby company, and Nets.ai, we are making computers talk like humans. So if you're interested, if that is something that interests you, feel free to go to Nets.ai and find all the information about it.
Thank you very much. We'll leave everything in the description as well. Thank you very much for watching. We were really grateful for that. And yeah, thanks again, Dennis. Appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.